And again, welcome back to another episode, number 12 of the Dynasty Gambit, where we break down your Dynasty rosters. And of course, we have another great Dynasty roster for you guys today, along with discussing multiple issues around the league. And of course, we have the usual suspects. We have Kyle at Senra Says on Twitter, and the Doc at TFS Doc. How you guys doing? Kyle, how's it going up in Canada, up in the north?
Well, summer's here, so it's definitely hot. Specifically with Canada, CFL will be coming, so look for some going for two content regarding CFL DFS. Everyone likes to play DFS, so yeah, I'll be definitely be producing that. So look for that soon. That'll be August, so just a couple weeks away from that.
Might find another Kurt Warner there, right, Doc?
Yeah, who knows?
I don't think Kurt Warner actually never played in the CFL.
Yeah, what league was he in? He was the Iowa Barnstormers, but I forget what league
that's Arena Football League.
Arena Football, that's right.
I mean, you got the Warner jersey. I figured you'd know.
I do. I just remember the team. I forgot about the Arena Football League, but you're right. That was it.
Isn't that where Johnny Manziel's playing now, the Arena Football?
I don't know. I think he's playing intramurals in, Walla Walla, Washington or something like that. I don't know.
Him and Josh Gordon were hooking up a little bit.
Maybe they're hooking up again.
Oh, and Josh Gordon actually filed for reinstatement back into the league a couple of weeks ago as well. So, I mean, of course, that's a conversation that's been overkilled already. But
you forgot to introduce yourself again, host.
I did. I keep forgetting this. The excitement of the show, I just keep forgetting. I am a humble man. Love me some humble pie. But I am FF Junkie 85 on Twitter and the co-host for the Dynasty Gambit. And without further ado, fellas, let's jump right into the topics. And of course, unfortunately, I hate it, because I was looking forward to a fantastic season from Cam Akers. And with Stafford there, I was really excited to see what this new offense looks like. More of an explosive version of from what it's been in the past couple of years. So, Doc, I'm going to hit off with you right off the bat here. Explain to us this injury. Break it down for us and tell us from a rehab standpoint and from what can we expect from him. Can we expect 100% of what we expected from him this year in the next coming years from Cam Akers?
Yeah. Before we jump into it, let's all just take a moment to acknowledge how much this sucks. I mean, you never want to see a player get severely injured like this, regardless of you have him on your team, you don't have him on your team. Full disclosure, I didn't have him on any of my teams, but I'm still sad that, he's not going to be available this year and that now potentially his career is in jeopardy. He was an electric player. I just love watching him play, and I was excited to watch him play this year too, just as a fan of the game of football. Part of being a football fan is getting excited for player potential and seeing them get to showcase their abilities, and now we don't get to do that. So I can only imagine how people that have Cam Akers on their team are feeling right now. So I just wanted to acknowledge that, and now we can talk about what's next and maybe where to go from there. So for those people that maybe have been off social media or living on a deserted island for the last couple of days, Cam Akers injured his Achilles tendon in practice on Tuesday, and he's out for 2021. He's out for the year. Surgery is probably coming in the next couple of weeks. And then after that, the rehab process involves at least 4 to 6 months of no high impact activity. So no running, no jumping. He can't even walk on uneven terrain. That's the level of inactivity that we're talking about. And then there's a gradual ramp up from there, provided everything is going okay. Recovery from an Achilles tendon tear takes at least 8 months. It can take up to a year or longer. It varies on a case-to-case basis. He's out for 2021, obviously, but the good news is there's 14 months until the start of the 2022 season. So, he does have that going for him. So, that's where we are. And I'm sure you guys have read about and have heard about, and there's been, football Twitter has been on fire about what are the ramifications of this and how players this is a death knell for his career and players don't come back from this. I mean, is that what you've been hearing? How does it impact you guys as far as when you're thinking about it? And then we'll kind of, we'll take it from there. But I don't want to just, vomit everything on you guys. Like I'll set it up with that, and then we can talk about the good news, the bad news, and what to do about it, especially if you have Cam Akers, or maybe even do you think about acquiring Cam Akers? What's the outlook going forward? I think that's important to think about short-term, medium-term, long-term, and, maybe even Darrell Henderson, and how does he come into play, and what do you think about that?
Carl, I'll knock it off to you real quick from a depth standpoint. We've seen people talk about everyone on this depth chart to this point. From, of course, everyone's been hyping up Darrell Henderson this offseason as the clear handcuff. They, of course, have 4 other running backs: Xavier Jones, Jake Funk, Otis Anderson, and Raymond Calais, I believe that's how you pronounce it. Now, the 2 guys outside of Darrell Henderson being talked about a ton are Xavier Jones and Jake Funk as the 2 favorites to potentially threaten some workload to Darrell Henderson if there is some. If there is such a thing as a threat? What are your thoughts about this depth chart and what's behind Darrell Henderson?
I don't know that we know that the full answer. I mean, they could still go out and sign someone. I think is a very real possibility. I doubt they sign anyone that's going to immediately usurp Henderson as the number 1 guy. But if they bring in a significant piece, like for instance, Duke Johnson, I think a pass catching back, right? Someone that if he ever played with Matthew Stafford, someone who's exclusively or not exclusively, but a lot of times used as a pass catching back with a quarterback who loves to dump off to guys that are only pass catching backs. I mean, Duke Johnson offers certainly more of a runner than, like, let's use a famous example, Theo Riddick, right?
Just gonna say that. Theo Riddick, yeah.
So if Duke Johnson comes in, that tells us the Rams don't like Henderson as a pass catching back. Now, their old favorite, Todd Gurley. If they ever bring Todd Gurley, what did Todd Gurley do last year in Atlanta? He scored touchdowns. So
that's really all he did was score. That's it. Nothing.
So then if they go and sign their old friend Todd Gurley, you got to think that he's probably getting that role, and suddenly Henderson's the pass catching back. So I still think if they sign both, that's when Henderson could be in trouble. But yeah, so I think Henderson's worth. I think certainly. I think probably a second now, but probably worth more than a second. Certainly in a single quarterback league, I think you're probably looking at definitely at a first. In Superflex, I don't know. A Superflex first, it's tough to give up that just for a running back that might be a 1-year workhorse. Again, might be. We don't know for sure. Obviously, it has caused me, like, obviously before I had Akers ahead of Henderson in Dynasty. That's flipped in my rankings. Henderson's up to running back 28. And even that, I think, he's got a bit of room to grow. I've got Zach Moss, Ronald Jones right ahead of him. I could easily just put him right there at 26. Cam Akers down at 35, and even that feels like a little too high now. So it's definitely flipped in that sense, where Henderson is now, I view him as the more valuable than Akers. Because the one thing that scares me with Akers, and Doc, you can collaborate on this more, like specifically Achilles tears for running backs, it seems like there's no track record of success whatsoever. But I'm also looking at the names, and I don't think anyone on that list that's done that is as talented as Akers. So I'm not sure. So I actually really would like to get your thoughts specifically about his chances there. That's a really good point. I'm glad you brought that up, because a lot has really been written about in the past few days about the devastating nature of Achilles injuries specifically. And how there really isn't a great example, as you said, of an NFL running back coming back from this injury and being elite, as Cam Akers was. Probably the best example that we have of somebody coming back and doing something is Michael LaSure of Detroit back in 2011. He was 22, and in 2011 he was 22. He ruptured his Achilles, and then in 2012, the following year, he came back. He had over 1,000 yards from scrimmage, 34 catches, 9 touchdowns. That's pretty good. That's not what we were expecting from Cam Akers this year, or going forward. Wasn't what we were projecting, but that's something. The downside is that he really didn't do anything productive after that, and he was essentially out of the league within 2 years following that. The next best cases of that are Donta Foreman, who was a 3rd-round pick, tore his Achilles in his rookie year in 2017, and for all intents and purposes never made it back, and Marlon Mack, who is coming back from a torn Achilles this year, tore it at age 24, had averaged over 1,000 yards from scrimmage and 9 touchdowns each of the last 2 years, but is coming back from a torn Achilles this year. So he will really be an interesting one to watch
this year. It's almost like a bit of another test run or a smaller sample size. So the bad news is, yes, this is a very bad injury and this is career threatening. But the good news is that all hope isn't lost. Because something has never happened before, it doesn't mean it can happen. And there is a relatively small sample size. Those running backs that we're talking about, that happened a while ago. And things have changed. And it's a sample size of 1. Any player can do anything. So just because this hasn't happened yet doesn't mean that his career is over. Cam Akers' career is over. It's just we have to kind of recalibrate our expectations and what level of risk we're willing to take on. And that's more of a personal choice, and I can get more into that. But that's kind of how I see it. And, my valuation for him at this point is I would say treat Akers next year and beyond as an RB2 with low RB1 upside, and I think that's a relatively good way to price him. So the same way that we feel about Myles Gaskin and Mike Davis this year, like they should be good. They can run. They can catch. They got a little bit of shake and bake to their game. We're not really sure about the situation. We're not sure about the situation after this year. That's kind of how I'm seeing Cam Akers starting in 2022 and beyond. Although he does have a little bit higher upside, there is also the chance that you could get left with empty pockets. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Also, to add to that, since 2011, Cam Akers will be the youngest running back, except for Deontay Foreman, like you mentioned, in 2017 to have suffered this injury. So there's already a small sample size, but there's even a smaller sample size of someone who is this young, who, as of right now, he's 22. Shane from the chat calls out, there's a very small sample size. Bigger issue is he'll be 24 by the time he's back. I'm assuming he's referring to not 2022, but actually 2023, where he's given the year to actually take some time to recover, get into game shape, and slowly work himself back into form. I do think the high RB2, low RB1 ceiling is a little bullish, only because, like you said, there is a small sample size. It would be a little bit. I would be comfortable with saying mid to high RB2 will probably be his ceiling until I see otherwise, just because I had never seen it. So, but I'm not.
That's not his ceiling, though. I mean, if you want to say that's his median, that's fair. But he still has elite capability, so he could hit low RB1. That's his absolute ceiling for me. But that's not a high percentage play. But to say that the best that he could do going forward, best case scenario, is RB2, I think that's selling him a little bit short. So I just want to clarify that.
So let me ask one more question, and I'll kick this to you then real quick. So can we expect then, from an injury like this, can we expect him to, let's say 2 years from now, be back to exactly the shape he was, the way he was prior to this injury? Is that a fair expectation?
I mean, I guess the doctor would be a better person to answer that. I would say I probably not, but it's not out of the range of possibilities.
I was asking the doc. I was going to come to you next. I was actually asking the doc that question.
Okay. Is it a fair expectation? No, I don't think it's a fair expectation. I think that a fair expectation is kind of
95%.
A high RB2 with a ceiling for low RB1, and that's best case scenario. And that's what we're dealing with at this point. Like, the sad reality is that he may never be, like, he had a chance to be the best running back in football. That's probably off the table at this point, unfortunately. So what's that mean, though? Does that mean that he has no value? Does that mean it's like if you're in the top 12, like if you're number 12, does that mean it's no value? Like, I don't see it that way. But, is it possible that he comes back and he, has a 10-year career and he's, is the best running back in football? I'd say that's probably a little lofty. Just being realistic, unfortunately.
So the idea, I think, is just don't panic sell. Like, you're not just giving them away for nothing. Hold on.
I wouldn't. I mean, I would say, like, it depends on, and we can get into this, it depends on your team situation. It's really, like, there's no absolutes here. It depends on your team situation, and it depends on your own personal risk tolerance. I've heard some people that have said, I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to deal with the headache. I don't want to deal with the emotional roller coaster. I have a win now team. I want to collect, I want to cash in for 70% of whatever I can get for him now. That's completely reasonable. Other teams, like, they may not be in the win now window, and it's maybe they're not going to get a good price for him. They're not going to get an RB2 price for him. And that's kind of what I wanted to ask you guys. Like, if you valued him as an RB2 and you were going to, starting next year, what would be a reasonable thing that you would accept? And people may have different valuations on that. Like, what somebody wants, somebody else might not be willing to pay. It's probably league dependent. It's probably owner dependent, and it's risk aversion dependent. So
that leads to my last question on this topic before we move on, Kyle, to you. So in Dynasty, I still have Cam Akers ranked at 14, RB 14. That has not changed for me, even though with this, given this injury. Where do you have him ranked, and has it changed for you at all?
Yeah, I had him at RB 5.
Yeah,
3 days ago. So, I put him. Now I've got him. Yeah, right now at 35. So, yeah,
35.
Massive change for me. So that being said, I'm trying to sell for firsts anywhere I can. I've got a couple shares and looking to get first. I mean, so far no biters. Might be a hold situation and hope to hit that again next year as he comes back. Maybe people will be more inclined then, because I think enough people still believe in the talent, right? Like what Doc is saying, right? So maybe try and sell on that hope at a more opportune time.
So, Kyle, to put that in perspective, I have Kenneth Gainwell and Chase. I've Chase Edmonds at 35 in Dynasty. So, to ask you a question, so let's say, Kyle, that you have Cam Akers right now and you have him ranked at 35.
Edmonds is at 34 for me, so that's funny.
That's funny.
He would have been at 35 before this.
I have Kenneth Gainwell at 34. But so my question is this: you have Akers at 35 right now. Mm-hmm. So if that's the case, what's your trade value on Cam Akers? If you're selling, what are you willing to accept, given that you have him at 35? And if I'm coming to you, I know you have him ranked at 35.
Yeah, so I think I'd be willing to accept an early second, depending on the team, of course. Mm-hmm. Like Doc said, like risk tolerance, how many running backs I have. I mean, if he's the kind of like my last hope at running back and I'm just selling for a second, I'm probably not getting another running back that way anyway. So at that point, you may as well hope to get the first. Teams where it's a little deeper. Unfortunately, I think the two teams I have him on, it's really like he was the clear RB1. So in those leagues, I'm really saying like, I'm holding on for a first. So I won't really accept more than a first. I know one's a contract league, so it's, it sucks, but put him on an injured reserve, save some money. I'd rather do that than sell for a second.
In the contract league, you're holding him. You're not selling him. There's no way you're selling him.
Again, not every contract league allows you to save money with players on IR. I've learned that with a certain contract league I'm in this year. But for those, assuming that those do, I mean, I'd rather just save the money by putting them on IR and then deal with it next year. So that's kind of my play there. There's another league where it's strict dynasty that if I can get, I'm in that league, I've already got a couple of 23 firsts. If I can maybe do something like Akers and a second, even like a 22 second to get a 23 first and just try and monopolize that round of the draft, I'm trying to look to do something like that. So those will kind of be my prices. I'll be honest, it's probably about the same price for Henderson. This might be a really good time to sell Henderson, actually. If you can get a first for him, this might be one of the few chances that you can get him for a first, since he was super overhyped as a rookie.
All right, guys. One word answers here. Kyle, Jake Funk or Xavier Jones? If you had the choice to have one of them on your bench, who are you stashing?
I'll say Funk. I think the rookie contract just makes it so that he'll be given leeway. Even if he doesn't succeed this year, he'll still likely have a place on the team.
Doc?
I probably would say Xavier Jones, just because he's got the more likely chance to have some value this year, and then we'll see next year. But you guys know me. It's like I kind of take things year by year, and then even
that's right. Right.
Yeah, that wasn't really a one-word answer, was it?
Yeah, no, you're right. I did want to talk about Henderson real quick before we move on, because he essentially, for me, becomes exactly like Mike Davis and Myles Gaskin. Like, he's in that tier now. He can run, he can catch, he's going to get a shot at feature back work. Lots of uncertainty after this year. He is younger on a better offense, maybe a little bit higher upside. And for those of you that are too young to remember, back in 1999, there was this guy by the name of Trent Green, who was the quarterback, and he got hurt in a preseason game, and the coach of the Rams, Dick Vermeil, was crying on the sidelines because all hope was lost. And then this guy, number 13, came off the bench, this unknown quarterback by the name of Kurt Warner, who now has a bust in Canton and a gold jacket, stepped in and led the Rams to a title. So why couldn't that happen again with Darrell Henderson? It could. there are no guarantees in life. I know that they want injury analysts to come down on something. If I had to make a bet, if I was betting, I bet we see Cam Akers back on the field in 2022. I don't know what it's going to look like, but I think he's got a decent chance to kind of break the mold and be the new standard. So all hope is not lost. I wouldn't sell on the cheap. If you can get good value for it, as Kyle was saying, I totally agree with everything you said. For the value, you got him priced very appropriately. If you can't get that, just hold and let it play out, and don't sell him for less than that, because he could be back and he could still be really valuable.
All right, so moving on to our next topic, but real quick to your point, Doc, the difference between Darrell Henderson and Kurt Warner. Kurt Warner did not get a chance prior to that. Darrell Henderson has, and he still has not been able to take over that backfield.
He was a rookie. Give him a chance.
He was. Tua was a rookie.
We're going to find out. We're going to find out. He's going to get his chance.
All right, so moving on to Aaron Rodgers. Kyle, I'm going to jump right to you on this one.
Yes.
There's been so many rumors about Aaron Rodgers, and we just recently found out that he turned down a 2-year extension that would have made him the highest paid quarterback in the league, more paid than Mahomes for that matter. So is this just a smokescreen? Is Aaron Rodgers actually going to – I don't believe Aaron Rodgers is going to stay in Green Bay. I'm just convinced at this point that, okay, he's not playing this year for the Packers. Either he's sitting out or he's not, or he's going to be traded. What are your thoughts on Aaron Rodgers?
Okay, so yeah, basically, anyone who's listened to me on I'll plug my other show, the Full Press Packers Pod. Yes. I've honestly been touting this for about a year. I've kind of, ever since they drafted Jordan Love, looking at Rodgers' contract, it made it seem, 2022 Rodgers would be playing for a different team, and I still think that now. Hamid, there was a time where I might have thought that risk was true, where he might just hold out and not play at all, But then there was there was a chance he could have opted out and still gotten paid, and he didn't do that. So that tells me he's, if he was really willing to hold out, it would have been then. I guess it was a kind of a all or nothing decision he had to make, decide then, and he couldn't go back on it. And if he wanted to play, but I guess in theory he could still hold out and try and demand a trade. But I get the sense that he's going to be playing this year, and right now it looks like really hard to envision a trade with almost any team. I've kind of gone through, talked to my co-host on the Full Press Packers pod, Jesse Hall, and we think Miami is maybe the only likely scenario, because really, if the Packers lose Aaron Rodgers, what's their biggest need as a quarterback? Assuming Jordan Love isn't ready to play this year, do they get Tua Tagovailoa back as a trade? Like, that might be one of the few things they would be willing to accept. I know everyone wants to tie them to the Broncos, but I just don't really see what the Broncos have that the Packers really want. Jerry Jeudy might be a lone exception, just because the Packers don't really have any wide receiver signed next year. I think the rookie Amari Rodgers, the only receiver they have under contract entering the 2020 season so far. So
why Miami though? They only have a $5 million salary cap. So what makes you think Miami's the best fit?
Well, I also think that there's another player that they have that would help free up cap space. Xavier Howard. It seems like he's unhappy too. So is there a package there too? A Howard, Rodgers involved, picks somewhere one way or another. Maybe there's some salary retention. Is something else as a sweetener. But yeah, you are right though. I mean, I think Rodgers is a $37 million cap hit. Like, that's tough for a lot of teams to absorb. So that's why
the Broncos have 28. The Broncos have 28.8 million in space. So yeah, they can definitely.
I just don't know what they have to give to the Packers. If the Packers will say yes. Because the way I see it, if the Packers trade away Rodgers for nothing, they may as well just let him retire, right? Like, I'm getting the sense that's how the Packers see it too. Like, they're not just going to trade him away for pennies. Mm-hmm. Like, they may as well let him retire. I think if he retires, he has to pay back some. Like, there'll be some money paid back next year. There's like some dead cap that could get erased. Like, they save a lot of money with him next year, where that's more flexible. But this year, it just really seems like it's. I don't know. I just don't think the Broncos have the ammunition. I think during the draft was maybe the time it would have happened.
I agree. But I was surprised he was not traded during the draft. I was very surprised.
The 9th overall pick would have been a sweet piece. Could have got Fields and just said, forget it with Love. It's sunk cost and move on with the better quarterback. But I just don't see what the Broncos have. Again, Jeudy is a piece, but they're not just going to trade away Rodgers for a rookie wide receiver.
Straight up.
Well, like a wide receiver on his rookie contract, I meant to say. But even, again, Broncos first, you really want a first from the team that has Aaron Rodgers. So I'm under the impression Rodgers is going to play this year. Is it going to be all 17 games? I guess we'll see. But I definitely expect him to be on another team in 2022.
So,
sorry for the long-winded answer. But that's
that's great. So this is what we wanted, because we want the answer from the person who follows the team, knows the team. So, but you're saying for 2022 he's on a different team. But what's your gut tell you for this year? And it's like, obviously you're not held to it, but just everything that you've been hearing. Like, do you think he doesn't play in 2021? He does play for the Packers. He ends up playing for a different team. Like, what does your gut tell you how's this going to play out?
I think he plays for the Packers. I think he plays for the Packers, and that's not just me being an optimistic Packers fan.
Okay.
I think if he was to be traded, it would have happened already. Again, there's still maybe a door open for a team or two, but I just think it's too far gone. And again, if he was planning not to play, the opt-out period, I believe, is over, so that ship has sailed. So my guess is he's playing in 2021. I know I've got him ranked at QB 9 in redraft, so maybe that's a little cautiously reflective of that, I guess. But,
I have Aaron Rodgers QB 12 in Dynasty right now. And that's regardless of what happens.
Yeah, I'm at 13 with Watson at 12. Like that's one of those where
I like how similar we are here.
Here. I'm assuming you have all three of the rookies ahead of him: Lawrence, Fields, and Lance.
I have Fields at 15. I have Rodgers at 12, and I have Watson at 11. I have followed by Lawrence at 10 and Lance at 9.
Okay, so because I do have Fields. I think I have Fields at I think QB 11. Yeah,
the reason why I feel
right ahead of Lance.
Why I feel a little low is because I just don't trust the play calling that the Bears have had last year. And I'm curious to see what happens this year. On top of that, Allen Robinson, if I'm not mistaken, he's playing on a franchise tag.
Yep.
So it is a little concerned. If he leaves, don't tell me Jarrell Mooney is a number one wide receiver. He's not. He's a complimentary receiver. So I need to see more weapons on that team for me to trust Fields to rank him higher than these players. That's my only concern. Love the talent. Hate the landing spot, but love the talent. Love the player. But with that said, let's talk about that was a great discussion, guys.
Much appreciated.
Yeah, that was a great discussion with Akers and Rodgers. But now let's go to the bread and butter of the show, guys. The Dynasty roster breakdown. As always, we start with the quarterback position. But before that, it's a Dynasty roster, of course. So it's a 1 QB league. So no super flex. So with that said, let's jump right into the quarterbacks.
And it's a 12-team league, right?
It's a 12-team league. That's correct. 12-team full PPR, yes.
Okay, cool.
The quarterback position. Guy only has 2 quarterbacks, Tom Brady and Lamar Jackson. Kyle, I'll start with you. What are your thoughts about his quarterback, man? He's like, dude, he's living a thug life. 12-man league, he only has 2 QBs.
I mean, to be fair, if I had whatever he invested in Jackson, I would assume I would only want 2 as well. I mean, why complicate matters, right? I mean, I would assume he's playing Jackson almost every week, unless it really looks like a great matchup where Brady's going to score touchdowns, like preferably games where this is going to be a big shootout, right? You don't really want to play games like Brady in games where you think, the Bucs are just going to steamroll this team. That might be a lot of rushing touchdowns, a lot of carries, not a lot of production, right? So with Brady, you're being really selective, and with Lamar Jackson, he's so safe that you're just probably playing him most weeks. So play Brady in his ceiling matchups, Jackson every other week, and I don't see why you'd need a third quarterback, to be honest. I mean, if this team, because it's Dynasty, I think Brady's a good sell if someone is willing to pay like starter price, like someone wants him as their starter. I think in a single quarterback league that might be tough to get. Like I don't know that you'll ever get much value. If you can get if you can get a second for him, I'd do it. And then just buy a cheaper quarterback, because again, my impression is I'm playing Lamar Jackson almost every week. So who my second quarterback is not so important. So that's the only hesitation, is he might have too much value at quarterback, if anything. Like sell Brady and get two streamers. Like I guess what you're saying, Hamid, right? Have 3 guys,
right?
But
at least have 3. At least 3.
But again, I don't mind. If you want to just ride, if you're not getting the price on Brady, you might as well just ride him out and just have the 2, right? Like I feel like roster construction wise, I'd prefer to have a cheaper second quarterback if it means getting better value elsewhere. But I also think this team is pretty good where they can maybe have the luxury of having a pretty decent QB2. I mean, maybe you're holding away another starter from another team, right? That's also making other teams not so good. So I'd look to shop Brady, but don't just give him away just because he's older and it's a single quarterback league. Like
also, every year we see a QBs get hurt every single year.
Exactly.
There'll be a time during the season where this person can use Tom Brady to say, "Hey, you lost a quarterback. You had a Aaron Rodgers or a Ryan Tannehill, for instance, or even Kyler Murray, and they got hurt. You need a QB. I got Tom Brady. Now it's time to trade." You can offer, that second round pick. But my evaluation on Tom Brady, if I'm not getting a high second round pick, I'm not trading him. Is that fair? Is that too bullish in your opinion?
I don't think so. I think it's fair.
I'd accept probably any second, even a late second. I wouldn't mind so much. But I guess single quarterback league, maybe that's not worth so much. But mid second, I think my tolerance a little bit easier. But yeah, I wouldn't want a third. That's for sure. I think I'm just old at that point.
Absolutely not. Now he did. Now here's the crazy part. He did play with an MCL injury last year. The entirety of last year, he played through an MCL injury, which you would have never known or seen or known if he had not told you. So that's pretty impressive. The numbers he put up last year. If I recall, I think he had 40 touchdowns last year, passing touchdowns. So that's
quarterback 7 or 8, something like that.
Yeah, he played phenomenal. He was a fantastic quarterback. So I can only imagine.
I can speak to that. I mean, it's not really that surprising, to be perfectly honest with you, because the way that the ligaments in the knee work, they're stabilizing ligaments. So going back and forth, which is what Tom Brady does,
right?
You don't really need the MCL for that. MCL is more of a stabilizing ligament for lateral movements when you're shifting and bending and things like that. So much more important for skill position players like running backs and wide receivers, where they have to stop, cut, twist, and do all that. So it's actually not that surprising that he had a torn MCL and was able to play, pretty well on it, very well at an elite level on it. And I don't think it's going to hamper him going forward. It's an interesting side note that he was able to do it, but I think it speaks more to the type of player that he is. And a quarterback like Russell Westbrook or Lamar Jackson or Kyler Murray or something like that, that's when you would see it make an impact. But, with Tom Brady, they braced it up, stabilized it artificially, and he was able to play just fine.
And the only rushing Tom Brady does is at the goal line.
1 yard line. Straight ahead. All the center in.
All right. So with that said, guys, from the QBs, let's move on to the running back position. Again, QBs are thin, and running back is just as thin as well for this guy. He has J.K. Dobbins, Kareem Hunt as his starting running backs, McKissick, Gallman, Geis, Madison. Geis is still relevant somehow. And Hawkins from the Atlanta Falcons rookie. So, Doc, what are your thoughts about his running back? He's thin at QB, at least. Well, we all agree he's pretty solid at QB. But what are your thoughts about running back? Looks a little thin there.
Yeah, I actually want you to talk to us about J.K. Dobbins because I know you're dying to. And I'm going to give away the ghost here. I actually am pretty okay with this running back squad as it is to start. I think he could use some more depth. I know Kyle is probably jumping out of his skin right now, but we're just diametrically opposed on these things, and we just got to get okay with that. But I want to give you the opportunity to wax poetic about J.K. Dobbins because you haven't had the opportunity to in like a month, and I know you're dying to, so please take it away.
So, okay. J.K. Dobbins, all right? Let me tell you something about J.K. Dobbins. And Kyle, you've heard this from me multiple times. I love me some J.K. Dobbins. He had a total so red zone touches, he had only 28, which happens to be ranked 28th in the league. And he's on the highest rushing team in the league by far. Like, it's not even close how much this team runs. And even given that, his production efficiency was ranked number 9 in the league amongst all running backs. And that's with the few touches that he did have. On top of that, he had 9 touchdowns. 9 touchdowns, given the fact that he's sharing that backfield. Majority of the weeks, he's getting 55 to 50 to 45% of the offensive snaps. Not touches, offensive snaps that he's on the field. That's ridiculous efficiency for a rookie. He's in year 2. Now, Mark Ingram didn't play a whole lot last year, so I'm not even going to say, Mark Ingram no longer there, because that's irrelevant. It's really Gus Edwards and him. I love Justice Hill, but please, he's not going to be overtaking Gus Edwards or J.K. Dobbins, although I wish Justice Hill could have gotten a better opportunity because I love the player. But But I think it's going to be Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins. I think it's going to be a 55-45 split between the two. Okay, maybe a little bullish there. But I think it's going to be right around there somewhere. Then Justice Hill will sprinkle in some a little bit as well. But I think given a year or two with J.K. Dobbins on this offense, I think he has phenomenal upside. Now, of course, he's not going to hit 300 touches. He's not going to – I think between 200 to 220 touches is where I think the range is as far as how many touches he gets in total. If he gets a little bit more uptick in PPR from a receiving standpoint, I think he can hit between 10 to 12 total touchdowns, putting him right in line with the mid to high RB2 range with the potential for an RB1 given how efficient he is or will be. That's all based on how efficient he's going to be, but I think he's going to be right around mid to high RB2.
I'm surprised. I thought you would have him squarely in the RB1 territory, to be honest with you, especially if he got an uptick in his receptions, like that would make him an RB1. Is that Raza? Hey, buddy.
Yes, it's Raza.
How you doing, buddy?
He's here.
What do you think about J.K. Dobbins?
He loves J.K. Dobbins, right? J.K.
Who's
Dobbins.
better, J.K. Dobbins or Daniel Jones?
Oh, see, why you guys? He can't hear you. First of all, I got my headphones on, but yes, J.K. Dobbins a little bit. But Kyle, what are your thoughts about J.K. Dobbins? I know you actually don't love him as much as I do. I
don't think anybody loves him as much as you.
Yeah,
do.
I was gonna say it's really tough to love him as much as
J.K. Dobbins' mom. I think you love him more than his own parents.
So yeah, where do you have him ranked?
In Dynasty, I have you. You're actually gonna be disappointed in this one. Actually, you guys would think I have him inside the top 12, but I have Dobbins. Where are you, Dobbins? My man, number 5. He is my RB5 in Dynasty.
Okay, so that doesn't surprise me. That's good.
Yeah, behind Derek, right ahead of Derek Henry, and behind Alvin Kamara.
Yeah, you see, I actually have Kamara at 5, so we are close there. I have Henry at 8, Dobbins at 11. So.
How dare you? I have Nick Chubb at 11, by the way.
Well, you see, and that's why, because I actually have Nick Chubb, and that's where we're different, because the way you love Dobbins is the way I love Nick Chubb, because I have him at RB4.
See, 2 running backs who actually don't get majority of the – well, okay, Chubb I think doesn't get majority of the touches, but Chubb is still efficient given the touches that he has. He's not getting those, 3-down back touches the way other like Jonathan Taylor is expected to, Barkley and Christian McCaffrey, et cetera, et cetera. So – 2 efficient running backs, but Chubb does stand out where I think you're going to say is he actually gets more touches and significantly more than the RB behind him, which is Kareem Hunt. Is that why? What are your reasons for it?
Yeah, that's the thing. And I anticipate Dobbins will get more carries next year, but he could still, he still might not eclipse 200. Like I think he'll get right around 200, but I think Nick Chubb, given a full healthy season, should see closer to the 250. Also, Nick Chubb has, I believe his career high in catches is 36.
It's somewhere there. It's in the 30s.
That was Dobbins had half that last year, right? So Nick Chubb, both have ability. Like both have shown to be talented catching backs. They can get receptions. That's for sure. I can. They can catch passes better than I can say pass catching.
There you go.
But it just seems like the Browns have been more willing to use Chubb as a receiver, and maybe that's just the quarterback, right? Like Baker Mayfield's more willing to dump off to his running backs than Lamar Jackson. So,
aren't you concerned though, if although Beckham stays healthy, that Chubb does not get those targets that you're expecting him to get?
Beckham isn't seeing the target share that he saw with the Giants.
He never will.
So probably not. If Beckham was seeing that type of target share, sure. But I think he's someone that probably will see 100 targets, but not the 130, 140. What didn't he get? Didn't he have a one season pace? We had like close to 170, 180, 100 targets, like that type of thing. Yes, that would scare me. But the way that they've targeted Beckham in the past, no.
Oh, he wasn't playing last year. He was hurt majority of last year.
Not rookie season, but his first year there too. I believe he played all 16 games, and I think he got over 100 targets, but just over. I'll look that up.
He did, but he was hurt that year too. We found out afterwards that he had like some sort of sports hernia thing or whatever. So
never mind. I am wrong. He had 133 targets, but only 74 receptions. That's why.
Yeah, they probably played a part in that as well.
Yeah,
I love that catch rate for sure. What the catchable rate was for that year.
Yeah, I do wonder because it seems like I was pretty high on Beckham last year because it does seem like Baker takes Jarvis Landry's catch rate his first season, I guess 2018 with Baker was pretty awful, and then it improved. So I was wondering
last year
if
improved significantly. Actually, yeah, that's correct.
So yeah, just looking at Chubb's numbers, I mean, he had 190 carries last year, but only in 12 games. So yeah, for a 16 game pace, he had 298 the year before. Like, I mean, if he gets to 300 carries. Like, that's good, probably 100 carries more than what Dobbins is capable of. And that year with Beckham, when Beckham got 133 targets, he still had 49. Like, that's his career high in catches, right?
So Dobbins only had 134 carries, and I believe he had 20 and some receptions. So in total, he barely touched 150 total touches. I think I think that's going to go up at least 50 to 70 more. So around 200 to 220. With that happening, I think his ceiling is a low RB1. So
yep, I mean, I definitely agree. I've got him again. Well, yeah, ceiling. I mean, well, really, because I figured, if you have him ranked at 5, your ceiling would mean he's your top 3, top 5 back as a ceiling.
Yep, and also, so now this guy does have Kareem Hunt as well. So I think he's decent at his running back position. But once you go past that, Gallman is, of course, not going to – he's a backup. He's not even a flex. Geis, I don't know why this person hasn't been in the lineup still. And then Alexander Madison. Even when Dalvin Cook was hurt and Madison got the opportunity, he wasn't really that good. Similar to Tony Pollard, and that's another story from the time.
Yeah, small sample size there. So when you ask me about like the running back stable, when I look at it, I would say for right now, he's okay. Like, he's got Dobbins as his RB1. Dobbins should be kind of an RB1. He's got Kareem Hunt as his RB2. Kareem Hunt should grade out as about an RB2. After that, we got some question marks. So McKissick, what if Antonio Gibson's turf toe comes back or is worse than being reported? He gets an uptick in value. Madison, probably the top backup in the league, and has potential to be an RB1 in any weeks that Cook misses time, and he probably will miss at least a couple of games during the year. He did have 29, almost 30 PPR points in a meaningless Week 17 game that Cook missed last year. So that shows you the upside. And then the other ones you mentioned, Wayne Gallman, backup, may even get cut, may get picked up by somebody else. Darius Geis has essentially been disavowed by LSU. I don't know if he's ever going to be in the NFL again. If I had to bet, I would say no. And then J.B. Hawkins is, he's got a perfect chance to have some value this year as a rookie. So it's one of those things where he's okay now, and it's just watch it as it goes forward. Things may change, as we've seen with Cam Akers. Guys can get hurt. If Dobbins gets hurt, he's going to have to pull, break in case of emergency, break glass and start making some moves if he wants to contend this year. Or, he can sit on it for right now. We still got 6 weeks till the season starts. If Cook gets hurt, his running back situation's looking a little bit better. If
significantly better.
His running back situation's looking a lot better. So he doesn't have to make a move right now. He's probably going to have to make a move at some point, but then it's a question of, does he want to make a move? Like, is his team contending, or have they kind of fallen out of it? So that's the way that I see it. It's not super sexy, but it can get the job done.
Yeah, I think McKissick, Gallman, and Hawkins all have the potential to see more carries than what we're expecting right now. So I think those are all 3 solid guys to hold, kind of one injury away. So I don't hate this running back room. I would look to maybe I would look to try and upgrade. Like, I still think Dobbins' price is a little higher than what it could be, but I mean, I think a lot of the trades I've seen for Dobbins is pivoting down and getting extra value, going from Dobbins in a first to get Josh Jacobs, whoever the lack of pass catching there, but also the injury, the offensive line, the potential suspension. Like, Jacobs' value is so down that you can kind of get that, like get a Jacobs.
His
Dobbins
is very down.
I don't think that's the type of trade that this team would want to make. Like, I'd be looking to go the other direction, try and upgrade. Like, how much does it cost more on Dobbins to get Jonathan Taylor if it was me? Like, that's kind of how I would go about it. Like, okay. I want to get, because I have Taylor as my dynasty RB2, right? So I want to get the guys that I believe are at the top.
Yeah, I kind of would go in a different direction. I'm just looking to acquire another body. I'm happy with Dobbins and Hunt as my guys. I just want some insurance. So he's got 3 seconds in 2022. I'm looking to see what maybe 1 or 2 of those seconds get me if I need somebody. Could I get a Myles Gaskin? Could I get a Mike Davis? I'm not looking to set myself up for life. Like, Jonathan Taylor, like, that's like, I'm going to go buy the Lamborghini. Like, I don't need the Lamborghini to get to work. I just need a Honda Civic. So, like, what's that going to cost me? Can I part with a 2022 second next year, and can I pick up Mike Davis, and maybe that's enough to get me over the hump, and then I can figure it out after that. That's kind of the way that I see it.
That is a more reasonable. Actually, yeah, I feel like Mike Davis is very undervalued right now. Could be attained for a second, knowing that team doesn't have their first. They're kind of set.
I think 1 second is just about right. I think a mid second is what I would pay for Mike Davis right now.
I'd be willing to give 2 of those if it meant get me like a third running back I could flex. You think? Okay.
In my opinion, that's too much.
Try and get a third back or something. Get an extra pick.
Second round picks. Second round bingo, baby.
Well, because it's single quarterback, right? So I'm like, if it was super flex, I'd be hesitant to sell too. But I'm for a guy like Davis, I mean, especially knowing that they have Hawkins, right? Like I almost wonder, does it make more sense to actually go for Gaskin, and then you have hope that maybe you get 4 guys that are running backs, right? So maybe if the Darrell Henderson manager is asking for a second, not a first, I'd look for that too, like just to tie into that. I'll be honest, I think I'd be selling Madison right now. I'm not sure that he is the main backup. They did sign that Kenway Ngwanu, or they don't sign him. They drafted him in the 4th round. It seems like he's going to be active on game days due to playing special teams. Same with Amir Abdullah. So there could be times when Madison is inactive. And I don't know that he's the guy that you're going to want. I mean, it's weird because he might, like, I feel like he'll be active when Cook's there, but even so, I don't know that he's necessarily going to be the workhorse we're expecting for. So I disagree that I don't think he's the best backup anymore.
Yeah, and he may not be.
And I'd sell him now before the rest of the league finds out. Like, go to the Cook manager and see like if they want that handcuff. This might be like
the Cook manager. I would be have a lot of trepidation about having Cook on my roster and not having Madison.
So get another second. Right?
I would pay more to get him.
You know what? Get another second, buy both Gaskin and Davis. Why not get 4? Like, just increase the depth or buy another wide receiver, right? So I think Madison's. I like holding on to McKissick, Gallman, Hawkins, but I'd look to sell Madison, and I think with Geis, I mean, you could drop him if you want to hold him, but like he's not worth anything trade wise. You might as well drop him.
What are we holding on to here? He was one of the most hated players in the league a couple of weeks ago, and it's like, okay, great, he got 4 misdemeanor domestic violence charges dropped, but he still has 3 sexual assault charges pending with a potential suspension looming from that. He's been disavowed from LSU. He would be a PR nightmare for anybody that signed him. He would likely be in a committee at best if he got signed, and he hasn't played a meaningful game since 2019. Like, what are we holding on to here?
There's a serious injury history there too. Like, this is not a guy. Like, I mean, assuming that by now he's fully recovered from whatever he's needed to recover from. But yeah,
which is by no means like a a lead pipe assumption. Like.
So I mean, definitely feel free. Could drop him for sure. But I would look to sell Madison. I think that's probably the one move. And yeah,
I don't dislike that at all. I like that process.
All right, and with that, one little J.K. Dobbins note for you, Kyle, just because you hate him so much. Do you know from week 8 onwards last year, J.K. Dobbins was RB11? All right, that's your little nugget for J.K. Dobbins. We'll leave it right there on a high note.
That's why I have him ranked.
So now let's move on to the wide receivers, and this is where it gets really interesting because I think this team is really deep at wide receiver, and this is where they can actually make those improvements at running back, if not only with those picks. So we have Newsome, the rookie for the Chicago Bears. We have Keenan Allen, Cooper Kupp, Higgins for the Bengals, CeeDee Lamb, Lockett, Deshaun Jackson, John Brown, Jarvis Landry, Philip Dorsett, Will Fuller, David Moore, not DJ Moore. That's been a big problem.
That's important.
David Moore, yes. Tim Patrick and AJ Green. Guys, this wide receiver core is loaded. And the crazy part is he has to bench one of them. He can't start all of them. So every week he's going to have an issue about who do I bench out of all of them.
Yeah, the problem is there are these things called bye weeks. And then there's injuries. So,
also, I mean, that's where the matchups come in handy, right? Like
matchups too.
Paying attention to cornerback matchups and finding out, okay, who's got the tough matchup, and that's the guy to avoid. It also gives you the flexibility of like, okay, if the running back situation isn't great, you don't feel stuck, right? If you're flexing wide receivers every week, you don't worry so much about the RB3. Like let's say the Mike Davis, Myles Gaskin managers are asking for first, and you can't get him for that price, and you don't feel trapped, stuck, forced to pay that. So. I also think this wide receiver room is balanced. You've got young guys like Lamb, Higgins, but you've got the older veterans like Keenan Allen, Kupp. So you've got production kind of all over the place. Like you said, Hamid, maybe deep enough at receiver that maybe there's a package to be made. Like do you sell high on Keenan Allen in a second to go after an upgraded RB2? Do you go after a Miles Sanders, Josh Jacob? Maybe they're a little sour right now. People are a little low on them. People think, okay, maybe get out, and even if they give an older receiver, if they get a younger pick back, is that a play to make that helps the lineup every week more so than going after just another younger receiver?
And with that point as well, I would say I agree with you. I think of all these wide receivers, Keenan Allen would be the one I was going to sell. If I'm not mistaken, he is probably the oldest one out of all the main wide receivers. I mean,
John Brown, Smokey Brown is 31.
I think Deshaun Jackson's the oldest one. Well, AJ Green.
AJ Green is 32.
I was going to say AJ Green.
No, you're right. Deshaun Jackson's 34.
Yeah, so the Rams guy, right?
Yeah, but out of all of the main wide receivers,
you're not getting much for them, right? Like Keenan Allen's still worth a lot of value right now.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. If I'm not mistaken, Keenan Allen's 29 or 30? I think he's 30.
29.
He's 29, yeah. Mm-hmm. So, and plus, Keenan Allen's not known for. Here's the thing. Okay, here's one thing I want to call out: receivers lose what first? Speed. Keenan Allen's not known for his speed. He's a route running technician, and he does not drop balls. Those are two qualities that are not going to go away anytime soon. Look at Larry Fitzgerald. He's my favorite wide receiver I've ever seen. The dude is just great at the fundamentals, and that's what Keenan Allen's great at. So that's why his window of elite play, okay, fine, might be 3 years, but I think he's still going to have that Larry Fitzgerald type durability, which he's shown ever since he got hurt that one season. He has that durability to play at a very high level for a good 5 or 6 years from now into his mid-30s, the way Larry Fitzgerald has. Yeah, so anyone who thinks otherwise and is going to say, no, I don't want to pay value because he's getting too old, I think that's ludicrous.
Yeah.
Julio Jones,
ageism.
He might have to be a hold, right? Like you might not get what he's worth. Like someone might only be willing to give it a second, right? Like that's at a point where this team probably doesn't need another second, right? Like again, like I'd be selling Keenan Allen for a running back someone's sour on, right? Like a running back that maybe is more attainable that way. Again, pair Allen with a second to go up and get a top 15, top 20 running back. I think that's about the only type of trade I'd look to make. Otherwise, you may as well hold him and ride him out. Because here's the thing. I wonder if that already started last year. I'd like Doc, I don't know if you know, was he injured at all last year? Like, was there anything?
I don't think he was. I think he hurt his ACL the year before.
That was 2016.
No, wasn't that 2017? 2018?
2016 I'm looking at is the season where he tore his ACL.
That was his ACL tear. I know what he had last year. He had it was a hamstring, some kind of lower body injury, and he ended up missing 2 or 3 weeks or something like that. But it was kind of sudden. It was kind of underplayed during the week, and then the next thing you know, he deactivated on game day, and I think he missed 2 or 3 weeks as a result of that.
Because here's the thing. He had his lowest yards per reception of his career last year, 9.9, right? The only time he ever sniffed anything close to that low was his second season at 10.2. So, on 100 catches, not much difference between 2019 and 2020. If you look at just catches to yards, right? In 14 games, he had 100 catches in 2020 and 992 yards. 16 games, 104 catches in 2019, but 1,199 yards. We're talking over 200 yards difference on basically the same number of catches. So I wonder, did he already hit that kind of high, efficiency drop a little bit? But even so, if that's the new normal of Keenan Allen, can still catch 100 passes every year, had 8 touchdowns, which tied a career high. So that's maybe nice, turn with Justin Herbert is maybe a touchdown efficiency spike with Keenan Allen. So if he's already dropped in efficiency and this is what he's going to give you as the new normal, I'll take that for that price, right? If you're getting 100 catches and close to double-digit touchdowns every year, even if he maybe fails to get 1,000 yards, I still think that's worth it. So, and again, maybe last year was the yards inefficiency was maybe more tied to his injury. Maybe he bounces back. Who knows? So, yeah I definitely think do not sell low on Keenan Allen. If you get a first for him, that's great. But
so I'm gonna throw a running back at you for Keenan Allen. You tell me Keenan Allen or the running back. Okay. Keenan Allen or Antonio Gibson? Kyle.
I'll take Gibson, I think.
Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen.
Okay. Najee Harris or Keenan Allen?
Harris.
Keenan Allen.
Keenan Allen. Okay. So I'm going to keep going until I get two running backs from you guys. Okay. All right. Austin Eckler.
You're going to wait a long time, just letting you know.
Eckler.
What was it, Eckler or Allen?
Eckler or Allen?
Okay, you got me. Eckler.
All right, so Eckler's where we draw the line. I have Eckler as my RB12 in Dynasty. Kyle, where do you have him in Dynasty?
I think I have him. Sorry, I've got that right now. I think 13. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 13.
Doc, not to put you on the spot. Do you have your rankings up by any chance?
I don't do rankings. I do tiers. So I got Eckler as a low RB1.
Low RB1. Okay. All right. I'm just curious about this, guys. One more. Nick Chubb or Keenan Allen?
My RB4, Nick Chubb for sure.
Keenan Allen.
I knew your answer, Kyle, already. I was curious on the Doc's answer. I knew you were going to say Nick Chubb.
So Doc, that also reveals a bit of your process, right? You having Keenan Allen Austin Eckler above Chubb it's all about the pass catching, right?
It's all about in a PPR. It's all about the pass catching.
100% agree with that. Yep, I also agree with that. You know what? Two more, because I'm just curious to hear your guys' thoughts here. David Montgomery or Keenan Allen? I think we both agree with Keenan Allen.
You know what? I have Montgomery higher than Gibson, so I would say Montgomery. But honestly, I think back to that first one. Gibson's maybe the only one where I'd question it.
My next one was going to be Gibson.
So I think just because the injury, that's where I'd question. I think I'd still take Gibson, just running back in his second season. Yeah.
So in the straight up trade, you're taking
wide
Gibson
receiver guy. I pick the wide receiver every time. The running back guy, I pick the running back every time. I don't know what we got from that. To be honest, that seemed about as expected.
Did you pick him every time? Was there somebody you took Keenan Allen over?
I think I said running back every time. Gibson was the only one I thought about.
Okay, I'm gonna go lower now just to see where Kyle draws the line. So now I want to know.
Okay, all right.
I'm just going down my rankings here. Javonte Williams or Keenan Allen?
Ooh, that's right on the cusp. I'll take Williams, expecting that Gordon's going to get phased out. So Javonte Williams.
I have Williams ranked at my RB20 in Dynasty. All right,
wait, I got one.
Go ahead. Let's hear.
Kerryon Johnson or Keenan Allen?
Oh my God! Of course, Keenan Allen.
All right, Chris Carson or Keenan Allen?
Ooh, yeah, that's right there. Like, because I have Williams at 21, Carson 22.
Carson 21 and William at 20.
Yeah, so I think because of the age there, Carson's up there already in a second contract. I'll say Keenan Allen at that point.
Wow, there we go.
We got it. Chris Carson's the line.
Chris
Carson, Kareem Hunt. Those are the guys where I'd rather have Keenan Allen. That you found the running back.
Doing their rankings, if you have Chris Carson, that is where Kyle, the Canadian, draws the line. That is the line. All right, guys, let's go to tight ends now. The guy only has two tight ends, Goddard and Parham. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Parham.
Close enough.
And for those wondering, Parham is the tight end for the Chargers. So with that said, what are you guys' thoughts? Doc, I'll start with you. What are your thoughts on his tight ends? He only has two. Neither of them are high tight ends or anything you can expect from them. They're kind of flexing tight ends. What are your thoughts on his tight ends?
Well, to be honest with you, like Parham is an unknown. Goddard is an unknown, given now that Ertz looks like he's staying in Philly. So, like they say in Bayonne, where I grew up, Bayonne, New Jersey, I think at tight end he's not great, but it's okay. Like, just roll it out and see what happens. Maybe Ertz gets hurt, maybe Goddard gets hurt, and then you got to make a move, pull from that wide receiver depth, or you got to make some other move. But I wouldn't necessarily upgrade it at this point. I would just be like, okay, this is my situation. Goddard still has a lot of paths to being a top 10 tight end. Ertz could still get traded. Ertz could get hurt. Ertz could be forgotten about. Ertz could be washed. I don't think he is, but it's possible. So he could still end up being a top 10 tight end in a lot of different pathways, and that'll probably be fine. And Parham could be better than we expect. So let that play out. You don't have to make a move at this point. Just be ready to pull the trigger if Goddard gets hurt or something else happens and you need to make a move.
Yeah, the Eagles' depth chart on the offensive side of the ball, Devontae Smith, and after that, who are we really trusting on that offense from the receiving core to catch passes? So it's from Hurts. Kyle, what are your thoughts? Okay, if you had to give me your top three in targets for the Eagles, I think Smith is going to lead this team in targets. Is that a fair assumption from all three of us here?
I mean, that would be my guess, but I'm not. I think it's maybe like a 40, 30, 20 type thing where I'm not. I don't think for sure it's going to be Smith. I think Goddard has a strong argument to make that it could be him.
I agree.
Wow. Okay.
I agree.
just because Jalen Hurts is such an unknown, like what type of receivers does he want to target? Is he going to heavily target the tight ends? It seemed like Goddard got decent usage at the end of the year. Again, was that just because the receiving core was not great, or is that really because Hurts likes to go with tight ends? So I think all bets are off, and I think Devontae Smith's price right now is getting a little too high with that assumption. But I also wonder if Dallas Goedert's price is just a little too high right now too. Not so much in tight end rankings, because I mean, what's he being drafted around right now? Probably anywhere in the tight end 7 to 9. Yeah, I've got him at tight end 9, so I feel like that's fair.
I got it.
Okay. I think that's the range, but I also, again, Doc, what you were saying, right? It's more about tiers than ranking. I have a massive gap after the top 6. Sure. I mean, even like you can even sell me on Fant. I mean, if they had better quarterback, you'd be able to more strongly sell me on Fant as the 7th. But I just feel like it's such a massive gap where I don't know if there's a big difference between Dallas Goedert at 9 and say, Hunter Henry at 16. I mean, Hunter Henry could lead the Patriots in targets.
1,000%.
I'm not going to ADP. I'm just going with my rankings there. So I think I'd rather have Goddard. Obviously, it's my rankings say. But if everyone thinks that, and I can get extra value by trading down from Goddard to Hunter Henry, I think I will. So I agree with you, Doc. I mean, that's what you said, Doc, right? You're not looking to upgrade the tight end position.
No, not at this point. I mean, Kyle, would it be fair to say that if The Rock was here and he saw that this team had any tight end below the top 6 tight ends, it doesn't matter who your tight end is?
Yep, I think that's exactly what I would say too. So
that was
The Rock,
a great impersonation, by the way. If I had my eyes closed, I would have thought someone just put it on the microphone or something and played it off of YouTube or something.
He looks like Kurt Warner, but he sounds like Rock Johnson.
The Rock, Dwayne Rock Johnson, yes.
So like I'm willing to actually pivot down. Like if you can trade away Goddard almost on that hype, like someone who believes that he is the alpha on that team, right? There might be that manager in that league. I mean, maybe the opportune time is if Zach Ertz gets traded, then his value could skyrocket. But right now that might not happen. So you could wait around for that. But so I think before the season starts, maybe someone who's really sold on Goddard would be willing to pay a price and pivot down. I mean, Parham, he's an unknown, but he might compete for the starter there. I expect it'll be Jared Cook. But
Cook could get hurt too. If Cook gets hurt, then same situation. It's like these things. It's like, what if somebody gets hurt? Because they will.
So and again, because it's such I don't think there's any tight end premium on this. I'd rather fill my bench. Premium. Yeah, running back and wide receiver depth is what you need. So I don't mind necessarily having 2 tight ends. I think I'd rather get either a better tight end. I'd almost rather get a better tight end or a worse tight end, because I feel like Goddard's right in the middle where, he'll probably finish as a top 10 tight end, but I don't think he's going to make a difference to where you're better off just having a lower tight end if you can get better value elsewhere. Like, sell Goddard for Hunter Henry and get an extra running back thrown in. Add that running back depth like we were talking about, right? Like that. Those would be the types of trades I'd look to make, or all those things we talked about, right? Is there a package to be made to go after an elite tight end? I mean, this team looks like it's ready to compete, so I don't think it's out of the question. Do you package Goddard and Keenan Allen to go after a Darren Waller, go after a George Kittle? Right now, I feel like Kittle is definitely lower dynasty value than where he was last year, so this might be one of the more attainable times to get George Kittle, because this team, I think we all view this team as a contender, right?
I do, for sure.
I concur.
Maybe that, as much as I am a little hesitant to overspend for a tight end, this team might be in the position to do it, where like that's the missing piece to truly be the best team in the league. Maybe Brady, Keenan Allen, Goddard, the picks, Alexander Madison. I think like there's a mix in there somewhere to go out after one of the elite tight ends, whether it's Kelsey, Kittle, Waller. Again, Kittle, Waller probably more attainable than Kelsey at this point, but I think that there's a trade to be made that could happen. So I wouldn't sit idle at tight end. I'd either look to go after those elite guys. If the price is too much, that means tight ends might be more valued in this league. So then take advantage, sell Goddard, pivot down, gain extra value at running back probably, and go from there. I think I
really like that.
That's a great take. And with that, guys, we have the picks that we've already talked about. He has 3 second-round picks for 2022 and all of his 23 and 24 picks. Guys, great breakdown. Now, my last question for every team that I'm starting to do here, from a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being hell to the no, 10 being absolutely. What number would you give this team as far as you want to own this team, from a scale from 1 to 10? Doc, I'll start with you.
I'm going to give it an 8. I mean, this team is kind of right up my alley. Like he's got a lot of depth at quarterback and wide receiver. Running backs I'm okay with, and he's got enough ammunition that when injuries are going to happen during the year, he can weather the storm. And if things start out well for him, and he says 5-2 after 7 games, it's like, okay, we're gonna make a run at this thing. He's got the ammo to do it, and I really like it. So I would gladly take this team on and adopt this team if I had the opportunity.
Yeah, I think I was going to say 7 or 8. I think right in there. I'm going to actually agree with Doc. I'll follow his lead, give him an 8. One thing we didn't talk about, the running back to quarterback stack with Dobbins and Jackson gives him a pretty safe floor. And in weeks where they just destroy a team, that gives him a really high ceiling where he could get, Dobbins could get multiple rushing touchdowns and Jackson's throwing some or running them in himself. Like his upside in those weeks where the Ravens are just blowing through another team is absolutely impressive. So like that is one aspect where, I get it. Maybe I mentioned, okay, go upward from Dobbins. Maybe you don't want to do that just because you have the stack, right? Keep Dobbins, like Doc was saying, like that's kind of, and I know Hamid would certainly agree. You've kind of like this team does. Like I feel like it's not an accident, right? Like I'm assuming this manager has done this for a purpose. Like they want both that stack, that quarterback running back stack, thinking that like just the weekly 4 is great. So if that's the way this team is built, then it probably makes sense to have Dobbins as the RB1 on this team, knowing you're playing him every week and you hope that it helps the overall ceiling having his quarterback as well. So yeah, I think that's yeah. So yeah, 8. Oh, that's a really long way to say 8, isn't it? They just round around in circles, which I guess is kind of like an 8.
The team ranked by the panel is an 8, a strong 8. I also concur. I think only because of the running back position. I normally punt tight end personally, so only because of the running back position where I do feel like if you could get that little bit of extra higher tier of a player at running back, a second solid running back, I think this team will be either a strong 9 or even a 10 for me. But I think we all agree it's a strong 8. We wish this person all the best with the team. Guys, this was fantastic. Please, let's go around the room real quick. Doc, I'll start with you. Where can everybody find you? And tell them more about yourself while you do the intro exit.
Yeah, thank you. So you guys can find me at TFS Doc. And please, like as injuries start to happen, Cam Akers, training camp's going to start at the end of the month. Like that's the opportunity to reach out and ask your injury questions. I tend not to put stuff out there, but the way I look at it is if you've got time to reach out to me and ask a question, I got time to give you an answer. So the people that know how to find me, and the people that don't know, it's their loss. Also on my Twitter page, you can find a link to my book, which is on injury analysis, called Injuries Suck, but Your Fantasy Team Doesn't Have to. Got chapters on just this sort of thing. There it is right there. When injuries start happening, what do you do about it? How can you plan for it? How can you read between the lines? Talk about overcoming your own personal biases, how to draft better, how to manage better, all that stuff. So e-version, paperback version, available on Amazon. There's a link on my Twitter page. And that's it. And I look forward to hearing from everybody, hearing your questions. That's what I'm here for. The doctor is on call for you.
Also available on Kindle as well. And also, I can vouch for this. The doc is not only smart at fantasy football, but he's also extremely smart and extremely knowledgeable at fantasy baseball. I message the doc all time of the day, night. It doesn't matter. I don't care. I wake the doc up, and he answers my questions and has helped me a ton in my fantasy baseball league. So I can definitely vouch for that.
I appreciate it.
I'll be honest. Like that book, it's like exactly 100 pages. And like 100% exactly what you need, right? I mean, there's so much in there. There's several chapters dedicated to just injury alone. I love the way it's spread out. Okay, like you give us that baseline information. Obviously, it's not the years of medical expertise that you've acquired, but it's a good for what we as fantasy managers need. And then it seems like the second half of the book is all dedicated to strategy, game theory, and I just absolutely geeked out, especially over that second half. Once that first half is really necessary though to kind of get into your head, Doc, and your head is basically a good place to be for fantasy. So we are glad to hear at the Dynasty Gambit to have you, and also looking forward to continuing our relationship on Monday nights in season. So
really
in season, yeah, can't wait to see this in season. Kyle, please tell us where we can find you and tell us a little about yourself as you do your exit intro.
All right, so Senra Says is the Twitter account. Follow me there. On top of the Dynasty Gambit, I also host another show on the Going for Two Live network called Press Coverage. That'll be on in, I guess, about 25 hours from now. So tomorrow night, Friday. Usually it's on Mondays. I was on vacation this Monday, so in July it was a little off, but look for that to return to its normal Monday nights in August.
Who's the guest tomorrow?
For tomorrow, it's Dylan Schmilter. Anyone who watched 2 Point Conversion about a month or two ago, Gladys's show, which is also on Mondays, we alternate weeks. He was on that, so you're gonna do the sit down one-on-one interviews. I've been on Dylan's show as well, so it's he's a really great sports mind in general, as well as fantasy. He talks a lot about a lot of different sports. That'll be really exciting to talk about different sports that we're not necessarily accustomed to on this show. So, we do love the fantasy football here. I do especially. I've got the Full Press Fantasy pod. I've already mentioned the Full Press Packers pod as well. Actually, my co-host Jesse and I, we recorded our final episode of the we're doing a bunch of different rankings. Recently did the top 10 Packers receivers this week. Just today we recorded top 10 Packers players overall. So look for that probably within the next 24 hours. It should be out. And I'll keep plugging the Going for Two store, goingfor2.com/store. It's all on ViridianGlobal.com as well. Viridian Global makes the great gear, the hat, these great shirts. They got these Scott Fishbowl shirts. This year, the theme with music. Obviously, a big Pink Floyd fan, as you can tell from the shirt, the dark side of the fish, as I call it. We'll see. Hopefully, my Scott Fishbowl draft didn't leave me on the dark side. But yeah,
love the
I like the draft. Jermichael Hasty.
Honestly,
are you still the only one that has Jermichael Hasty?
I believe so. I don't know if all the drafts are completed, but when most of them were done, I had looked and I was the only one who drafted Hasty.
Jermichael Hasty to the moon, baby.
And you will be the only one looking smart in the end, my friend. All right. So with that, I am your host, Hamid Sandhu, FF Junkie 85. On Sundays during the season, you can find me explaining the starts and sits of the week and discussing the forecast for the upcoming Monday games as well. I am also part of the group in Going for Two where we do PLP podcasts. These are private league podcasts that we do for only $8.25 a team, which comes out to about $100 per 12-man teams, where we break down we do a personal podcast for you and your league mates to listen to. We break down your rosters and also give you advice on what you can do to improve them and rank them from the worst to the best. So with that, guys, this was great. We'll see you all next Thursday on another Dynasty Gambit episode number 13. See you guys. Have a great one.
Number 13. Looking forward to it. Have a good night, guys.